I could not sleep that night. A vague feeling of impending misfortune impressed me. My sister and I, you will recollect, were twins, and you know how subtle are the links which bind two souls which are so closely allied. It was a wild night. The wind was howling outside, and the rain was beating and splashing against the windows. Suddenly, amid all the hubbub of the gale, there burst forth the wild scream of a terrified woman. I knew that it was my sister's voice. I sprang from my bed, wrapped a shawl round me, and rushed into the corridor. As I opened my door, I seemed to hear a low whistle, such as my sister described, and a few moments later a clanging sound, as if a mass of metal had fallen. As I ran down the passage, my sister's door was unlocked and revolved slowly upon its hinges. I stared at it, horror-stricken, not knowing what was about to issue from it. By the light of the corridor lamp, I saw my sister appear at the opening, her face blanched with terror, her hands groping for help, her whole figure swaying to and fro like that of a drunkard. I ran to her and threw my arms round her, but at that moment her knees seemed to give way and she fell to the ground. She writhed as one who was in terrible pain, and her limbs were dreadfully convulsed. At first, I thought that she had not recognized me, but as I bent over her, she suddenly shrieked out in a voice which I shall never forget. "Oh my God! Helen! It was the band! The Speckled Band!" There was something else which she would fain have said, and she stabbed with her finger into the air in the direction of the doctor's room. But a fresh convulsion seized her and choked her words. I rushed out, calling loudly for my stepfather, and I met him hastening from his room in his dressing gown. When he reached my sister's side, she was unconscious, and though he poured brandy down her throat and sent for medical aid from the village, all efforts were in vain, for she slowly sank and died without having recovered her consciousness. Such was the dreadful end of my beloved sister.
One moment. Are you sure about this whistle and metallic sound? Could you swear to it?
That was what the county coroner asked me at the inquiry. It is my strong impression that I heard it, and yet, among the crash of the gale and the creaking of an old house, I may possibly have been deceived.
Was your sister dressed?
No, she was in her nightdress. In her right hand was found the charred stump of a match, and in her left, a matchbox.
Showing that she had struck a light and looked about her when the alarm took place. That is important. And what conclusions did the coroner come to?
He investigated the case with great care, for Dr. Roylett's conduct had long been notorious in the county, but he was unable to find any satisfactory cause of death. My evidence showed that the door had been fastened upon the inner side, and the windows were blocked by old-fashioned shutters with broad iron bars, which were secured every night. The walls were carefully sounded, and were shown to be quite solid all round, and the flooring was also thoroughly examined, with the same result. The chimney is wide, but is barred up by 4 large staples. It is certain, therefore, that my sister was quite alone when she met her end. Besides, there were no marks of any violence upon her.
How about poison?
The doctors examined her for it, but without success.
What do you think that this unfortunate lady died of, then?
It is my belief that she died of pure fear and nervous shock, though what it was that frightened her I cannot imagine.
Were there vagrants in the plantation at the time?
Yes, there are nearly always some there.
Oh, and what did you gather from this allusion to a band, a speckled band?
Sometimes I have thought it was merely the wild talk of delirium. Sometimes that it may have referred to some band of people, perhaps to these very vagrants in the plantation. I do not know whether the spotted handkerchiefs which so many of them wear over their heads might have suggested the strange adjective which she used.
These are very deep waters. Pray, go on with your narrative.
2 years have passed since then, and my life has been, until lately, lonelier than ever. A month ago, however, a dear friend, whom I have known for many years, has done me the honour to ask my hand in marriage. His name is Armitage, Percy Armitage, the second son of Mr. Armitage of Cranewater, near Reading. My stepfather has offered no opposition to the match, and we are to be married in the course of the spring. 2 days ago, some repairs were started in the west wing of the building, and my bedroom wall has been pierced, so that I have had to move into the chamber in which my sister died, and to sleep in the very bed in which she slept. Imagine, then, my thrill of terror when last night, as I lay awake, thinking over her terrible fate, I suddenly heard in the silence of the night the low whistle which had been the herald of her own death. I sprang up and lit the lamp, but nothing was to be seen in the room. I was too shaken to go to bed again, however, so I dressed, and as soon as it was daylight, I slipped down, got a dog cart at the Crown Inn, which is opposite, and drove to Leatherhead, from whence I have come on this morning with the one object of seeing you and asking your advice.
You have done wisely. But have you told me all?
Yes, all.
Miss Roylott, you have not. You're screening your stepfather.
Why? What do you mean?
For answer, Holmes pushed back the frill of black lace which fringed the hand that lay upon our visitor's knee. 5 little livid spots, the marks of 4 fingers and a thumb, were printed upon the white wrist.
You have been cruelly used.
The lady coloured deeply and covered her injured wrist.
He is a hard man. Perhaps he hardly knows his own strength.
There was a long silence, during which Holmes leaned his chin upon his hands and stared into the crackling fire.
This is a very deep business. There are 1,000 details which I should desire to know before I decide upon our course of action. Yet we have not a moment to lose. If we were to come to Stoke Moran today, would it be possible for us to see over these rooms without the knowledge of your stepfather?
As it happens, he spoke of coming into town today upon some most important business. It is probable that he will be away all day, and that there will be nothing to disturb you. We have a housekeeper now, but she is old and foolish, and I could easily get her out of the way.
Excellent. You are not averse to this trip, Watson?
By no means.
Then we shall both come. What are you going to do yourself?
I have 1 or 2 things which I would wish to do now that I am in town, but I shall return by the 12 o'clock train, so as to be there in time for your coming.
And you may expect us early in the afternoon. I have myself some small business matters to attend to. Will you not wait and breakfast?
No, I must go. My heart has lightened already since I have confided my trouble to you. I shall look forward to seeing you again this afternoon.
She dropped her thick black veil over her face and glided from the room.
And what do you think of it all, Watson?
It seems to me to be a most dark and sinister business.
Dark enough, and sinister enough.
Yet, if the lady is correct in saying that the flooring and the walls are sound, and that the door, window, and chimney are impassable, then her sister must have been undoubtedly alone when she met her mysterious end.
What becomes, then, of these nocturnal whistles? And what of the very peculiar words of the dying woman?
I cannot think.
When you combine the ideas of whistles at night, the presence of a band of vagabonds who are on intimate terms with this old doctor, the fact that we have every reason to believe that the doctor has an interest in preventing his stepdaughter's marriage, the dying allusion to a band, and, finally, the fact that Miss Helen Stoner heard a metallic clang, which might have been caused by one of those metal bars that secured the shutters falling back into its place. I think that there is good ground to think that the mystery may be cleared along those lines.
But what then did the vagabonds do?
I cannot imagine.
I see many objections to any such theory.
And so do I. It is precisely for that reason that we are going to Stoke Moran this day. I want to see whether the objections are fatal or if they may be explained away. What in the name of the devil?
The ejaculation had been drawn from my companion by the fact that our door had been suddenly dashed open, and that a huge man had framed himself in the aperture. His costume was a peculiar mix of the professional and of the agricultural, having a black top hat, a long frock coat, and a pair of high gaiters with a hunting crop swinging in his hand. So tall was he that his hat actually brushed the crossbar of the doorway, and his breadth seemed to span it across from side to side. A large face, seared with 1,000 wrinkles, burned yellow with the sun, and marked with every evil passion, was turned from one to the other of us, while his deep-set, bile-shot eyes and his high, thin, fleshless nose gave him somewhat the resemblance to a fierce old bird of prey.
Which of you is Holmes?
My name, sir, but you have the advantage of me.
I am Dr. Grimsby Roylott of Stoke Moor.
Indeed, Doctor. Pray, take a seat.
I will do nothing of the kind. My stepdaughter has been here. I have traced her. What has she been saying to you?
It is a little cold for the time of the year.
What has she been saying to you?
But I have heard that the crocuses promise well.
Ha! You put me off, do you? I know you, you scoundrel. I have heard of you before. You are Holmes the meddler.
My friend smiled.
Holmes the busybody.
His smile broadened.
Holmes the Scotland Yard jack-in-office.
Your conversation is most entertaining. When you go out, close the door, for there is a decided draft.
I will go when I've had my say. Don't you dare to meddle with my affairs. I know that Miss Stoner has been here. I have traced her. I am a dangerous man to fall foul of. See here!
He stepped swiftly forward, seized the poker, and bent it into a curve with his huge brown hands.
See that you keep yourself out of my grip.
He snarled, and hurling the twisted poker into the fireplace, he strode out of the room.
He seems a very amiable person. I'm not quite so bulky, but if he had remained, I might have shown him that my grip was not much more feeble than his own.
As he spoke, he picked up the steel poker and with a sudden effort straightened it out again.
To be continued. Sherlock was played by Jeff Ronan. Watson was played by Ryan Nicolls. Helen was played by Amy Jo Jackson, and Dr. Roylott was played by Zach Valenti. Direction by Jason Merrin. Music by Alex Liberatore. Anthology is produced by Rachel Liu. Visit anthologypodcast.com for all episodes, bios, contact info, and more. And most importantly, thank you for listening. Jeff Ronan is an actor, director, and writer living in New York City. Check him out at jeffronan.com. Ryan Nicolls is an actor, writer, and producer. Check him out at ryannicolls.com. Jason is an NYC-based director. See what he's up to at jason-merrin.com. Alex is an incredibly talented composer. See what he's up to at alexliberatore.com. Jason and others in this episode were involved in a feature film